Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with A Free Woman on God's Earth. Chapter 9. The fall was one of the most beautiful in memory. The asters and the goldenrod bloomed purple and yellow along the field edges. The world seemed full of life and color. Every day was a wonder to Bet, and she felt contented and happy for the first time. She proudly took the name of Elizabeth Freeman, but was still known affectionately as Mum Bet. Theodore Sedgwicks was building up his practice as a lawyer and politician. There was 3 little children to take care of. There was another baby on the way. The days were still long and there was much work to be done, but she and little Bet were free to come and go as they pleased. They shared a room, and little Bet, who was 11 at the time, helped her mother take care of young children. Mum Bet was there by Pamela Sedgwick's side when she gave birth to her son. She encouraged and comforted her as she delivered the baby. Her skills as nurse and midwife proved with each delivery, and she was called out to attend a birth. Although she worked for the Sedgwicks, they never complained when she set out with her basket of herbs and poultices to deliver neighboring babies. As Mum Bet's reputation grew, she prided herself that she never lost a baby in the birthing. Mum Bet kept her midwifery fees in the leather drawstring sack with her mother had given her. Whenever she deposited money in her little bank, she smelled those herbs and thought of her mother. She was saving her money for something special. Theodore Sedgwick had been elected to the General Court in Boston and spent much time away from home. Mum Bet kept Sedgwick and the children company during this long time. The trip to Boston could take up a week, so Mr. Sedgwick was often gone for months at a time. There were many new laws being introduced, and Mr. Sedgwick had part in the writing of these laws. He loved his time in Boston. He was an ambitious man and sought out prestige that went along with being a member of the court. Mum Bet's workload was lightened when 2 years later Agrippa Hull and his wife Jane Darby joined the household. Agrippa was a free black man, newly returned from serving 6 years in the American Army under the famous Polish general Thaddeus Kościuszko. A few years later, in 1783, Theodore Sedgwick decided to move his family to Stockbridge, a town 12 miles north of Sheffield. He bought the last remaining piece of land owned on the main street by a native Mohican, a woman called Elizabeth, and bear with me, Puawaiosaqua Wanawayan Requanot. She had lived in the wigwam of this land her entire life. Now, as the last of Stockbridge Mohican Indians were moving to a reservation in Juanita, New York, she felt she had to sell her land. She sold the piece, which overlooked the Housatonic River, the 30 pounds lawful money, to Theodore Sedgwick and moved away with the rest of her tribe. Theodore had big plans for this land. He wanted to build the finest house in Stockbridge, and he himself designated his dream house. It took almost 3 years to build. When it was finished in 1785, it was a mansion with tall ceilings and windows and many, many rooms. It was easily twice as big as the house in Sheffield. Just before they moved, Pamela Sedgwick gave birth to a son, Henry Dwight. The growing Sedgwick family, including Mum Bet and Little Bet, all happily moved in the grand new house. "Mammy Bet, look at all these windows. I can see for miles," cried 10-year-old Eliza in delight. Little Franny, running up and down the staircase, opening every door, called out, "There's a fireplace in every room." Mum Bet smiled at the children, thinking about the cleaning of those windows and the building of those fires and the many earths. But she did not spoil the girls' pleasure. It was a beautiful home, and Mum Bet was glad for the opportunity to live in such a house. Agrippa and Jane moved into their own little house nearby on Goodrich Lane, continuing the work in the household. As fall turned into winter, Samson, a away slave joined the household and became their cook. He never talked about where he had come from or where he had learned to cook, but everyone was pleased with his culinary skills, including Mumbet, who had enough to do. Moses Orcutt joined the staff soon after, doing all the heavy work. This gave Mumbet more time to devote earning to care for the 4 young children, continuing her nursing among the townsfolk. In 1783, a treaty was signed between Britain and the colonies. The Revolutionary War was over. America was free from British rule. The soldiers returned home, but upon their return, many of them found they were being required to pay higher taxes than before the war. Before the war, they had been allowed to barter their taxes for a sack of potatoes or a peck of wheat, but now the government was demanding cash to pay these taxes. Here they had gone for years at a time, unable to work on their farms, and now they were expected to come up with real money. If they could not pay the taxes, they were often sent to jail and their land was taken from them. Most of the soldiers were farmers that had been unable to sow their fields and grow their crops, and so had nothing to sell and no money. Their wives had struggled to make ends meet during the war, and now their husbands were being arrested for something that was beyond their control. For a time, the soldiers shared their grievances in an orderly fashion, but the people in the government ignored them at every turn. The soldiers became angry and frustrated after years of service in the army. It seems that they were being punished for helping their country win the war. In response to this situation, most of the former soldiers banded together to start a rebellion. The man in charge was called Daniel Shays. These men wanted to take revenge on the local representatives of government and business. Theodore Sedgwick was a perfect target. For weeks, Mumbet and the family heard of a group of angry soldiers who, in their frustration, had decided to take the law in their own hands. They were making their way towards Stockbridge, fighting whoever had the misfortune to get in their way. The Sedgwicks knew without a doubt their destination would be the family home. Since Theodore Sedgwick had to be in Boston as part of his work, he sent his wife and children, along with little Bet, to stay in the home of a friend in case the dissenters attacked the home. He left only Mumbet and the other servants to protect the house from would-be invaders. He knew if anyone could protect his home, they could. The next day, a neighbor came over to tell Mumbet that the soldiers were in a few miles of Stockbridge. Although she was sympathetic to their grievances, she knew they were angry and set on revenge. She didn't want them to find anything of value to destroy, so she gathered together the Sedgwick's silver and jewels, put them into bags, and hurried them into their attic room and placed them in her own wooden chest. She then went down to the cellar and covered the barrels of good wine with heavy cloth and pushed a barrel of old beer towards the bottom of the stairs. She would rather protect the household if necessary. With the family gone, Mumbet kept only the kitchen fire burning for warmth as well as cooking. After a hurried supper, she settled herself down on the earth and fell into a fitful sleep, not knowing or when they could be coming. Before long, a loud banging was heard in the front door. Waking with a start and jumping to her feet, Mumbet hurried in the door and armed with a long-handled shovel. She stood in the hallway, bracing herself. She heard the men calling loudly. Their leader banged his gun against the door once more. "Open up! Come out, Squire Sedgwick, you coward!" Mumbet squared her shoulders, took a deep breath, and opened the door, glaring at the men. She held the shovel in front of her. "What are you doing, banging against your gun against my door?" she demanded. "Your door? This is the home of Theodore Sedgwick. We have a knocker. You would be smart to use it," she said, admonishing them. "Bring him to us. Bring us Sedgwick. Mr. Sedgwick is not here." "We'll see about that. Now stand aside or we'll push you aside." Mumbet looked at the men. Some of their faces looked familiar. She recognized Sam Cooper, who had been selling his rooms only the week before. Mumbet had brought the two of them to help his family. She gave them a hard look. What are you doing here, Sam Cooper? Why aren't you at home with those children of yours? Sam Cooper looked at his feet. We're here for a reason, Mumbet. We've got grievances. I know the reason, but destroying this house is not going to get you the justice you want. You better move aside, wench. We're going to search the house. One of the other men yelled. She knew that whatever they were looking for, they could not find, and she moved out of their way. Come in and search. You'll find nothing. You'll find anything here. Mumbet led the men through the front parlor, the dining, and the kitchen. She watched in disgust as they trampled on the floor over her polished floors and up the stairs to their bedrooms, thrusting their bayonets under the beds and in the beddings of Theodore Sedgwick. Finding no man or any guns or silver, they tromped down to the cellar and recovered the keg of beer she had placed strategically for them. One of them opened it, took a swig, and only just spit it out, for it was sour. What foul drink is this? It's what gentlemen like. You must not be gentlemen, Mumbet said mockingly. They kicked the beer aside and went back upstairs, grumbling all the way. Seeing that they'd all been in their bedrooms, they found the stairs to the attic and ran up to make sure they could find something. Their eyes lit up when they saw Mumbet's padlocked trunk. Give us the key, wench, one of the men demanded. Mumbet was irate. You and your fellows are no better than I thought. You and your fellows are no better than I thought you. You call me wench, and you soon are not above rummaging in my chest. You have to break it open to do so. While you're at it, why not look under my bed? Poke around my clothes. Maybe you'll find some guns or even the squire. Put in their place, the man sheepishly turned back and went downstairs. Mumbet sat on her wooden chest, her heart pounding until the last man left. Then she followed them to the front door. Sam Cooper tipped his hat to her. Thank you, ma'am, Bet. She nodded her head, bolting the door behind her. She took a breath and let out. Lord have mercy, she whispered. By God's grace, we are safe. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.